Well, the midterms just 10 days away, and certainly the crisis at the border is a top issue. U.S. Custom and Border Protection says 856 migrants have died at our southern border so far this year. Unfortunately, that breaks a record. Jonathan Thompson, National Sheriff's Association Executive Director and CEO, joining us live now. Jonathan, thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me, Natasha. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Jonathan, I know the Sheriff's Association released some of these incredibly grisly images we had to blur because they are so horrific, showing the situation at the border. What would you want Americans to know about the situation on the ground and the reality of it now?
You know, Natasha, I'm going to give you some numbers, and I think they'll all make sense. 2.5 million, 500,000, and last year alone, 850 people. Let me give you the facts here. 2.5 million people have come across our border illegally, been found or seen by the Border Patrol, at least 500,000 gotaways. And those in the desert that didn't make it were drowned in the river, 856 poor souls. They were given false hope. They were given a belief that they could get here and that they could survive the trip and the journey. And they died miserable, horrific, horrid deaths. And this is all something that could have been prevented. Now, a lot of people that may see these may think that this is a pretty gruesome way to tell people the message. But there's not a sane, reasonable person in this country that can't look at those pictures and look at those images of the people coming across the border and say something is wrong. Something has got to stop and something has got to change. And that was the purpose of doing what we've done. You know, we've got a crisis along the border. We've got a crisis in the interior of our country as well. In addition to the deaths of those trying to get here, we've got 108,000 people who overdosed on fentanyl or heroin last year. It's the largest deaths in our nation's history. And we're doing nothing. It's got to stop. The president owns this policy. We have pleaded with him. But, you know, something's got to give here. And I think, you know, unfortunately, those of us that live inside the Beltway, we don't see the horror all that often, but our deputies along the Border Patrol agents, the communities, the citizens, they see it every single day. The car chases, the gotaways trying to hurt people, stealing from ranchers, stealing from communities. And unfortunately, there's a death and destruction toll that is just beyond count. And it's, you know, here's the thing that just drives me crazy. We consider ourselves a humane country. What humane country can possibly sit idly by and let that many people die? And we know it's far more than 856.
Jonathan, I hear you. What do lawmakers need to do to fix the problem?
They've got to send a clear message that, you know, the law and the rule of law in this country's got to be followed. We can't bastardize the asylum process for somebody to raise their hand and say, you know, because I can't find a job in Guatemala, I should be able to find a job in the United States. We need immigrants. We need immigrants to help this country grow. We've got to have them, and we want them. But we need it to follow a legal path, a legal process. Millions and millions of people have come to this country. The Shining Hill, as everybody calls us. But now that Shining Hill, I'm sorry to say, is a home for death and destruction for too many people. You know, there was one image of a woman, unfortunately, at term with her pregnancy. It just shocks the conscience, and it should shock the conscience of our White House. They have got to stand up and they've got to say enough. And it's in the president's power. He can send the message. And number two, we've got to get these countries south of our border to start stepping to the plate and being held accountable. For too long, they have turned a blind eye to this. And then thirdly, we've got to enforce our interior. Where people do escape and where they are found, they have to be removed. And I know that scares people, and I know their families involved.
Yeah.
But we are not a nation of laws when you can avoid it so simply.
Jonathan Thompson, I hear you. I wish we had more time. I certainly appreciate you coming on the show tonight. Thank you.
Natasha, I want to thank you for the courage of showing this. This is a big story, and I think the people in this country, the citizenry of this country, have to speak up. Pick up the phone and call the White House. Tell them enough is enough.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.